gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome aboard United Athletics Flight 069, taking you from the rolling green-covered hills of Richmond, Kentucky, to the craggier climbs of Cedar City, Utah, and all the football you can handle in between. We're going around the UAC. Please enjoy today's in-flight entertainment, the Rev himself, Dustin Hilton.
You know, every week I watch that intro, and every week I'm like, man, it's awesome but bad at the same time.
I was going to say, every week it gets better and better.
Yeah.
I pick up something new in the intro. It's awesome, man.
Awesome. Well, guys, welcome to Around the UAC. You guys know me, the Rev. Normally I'd be wearing some Southland, or some, not Southland, wow.
Whoa.
No, I see, after I had Coach Fitzgerald on, and he told me I didn't crap on the Southland, I have to start doing it more. But no, normally I'd be wearing some UAC gear, some SF8 gear, but today it's all about my first love, my first team, the Texas Rangers. Got that on for the ALCS clinch last night, so suck it, Astros fans. Anyway, welcome to the show. I got a very cool, very special guest, Kyle Grooms, the Associate Commissioner for Football for the United Athletic Conference, amongst other commissioner roles within the WAC. I looked at your bio and was like, I'm not even going to try to split these up, so I'll just let you introduce yourself. But Kyle, man, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, it really is just, hey, do this and get it done. So we'll just say it's a GSD title.
There you go. That's a fun title to have. So yeah, let's Kyle's here. We're definitely going to talk about some of the stuff at the conference. So throw your comments or questions or shade on here. To the floor.
I picked up on that one too.
Yeah, that's a shout out to Mr. Keith Brake. He was very succinct and very genius, and that man, for what he does for East Tennessee State and all the work he does, he is an absolute genius. And then before we get into the stories, Alex asked how's the weather on the island. Snow is projected in Brookings Friday. That's why I don't live in Brookings. It was pretty, but that's why I live here where there's palm trees, and then I bitch when it's 50 degrees outside. So the cold I was used to in Arlington has gone away. But let's go through the games last week, because there's some pretty fun ones. I'm going to save one for last because it pissed me off. But let's see. I don't know if you watched all these, Kyle, or not. Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I got a spot upstairs where I got a projection screen in a theater, and I go the quad box on ESPN Plus, and I cycle through all of them at the same time. It's pretty sweet. I actually get to joke around with my wife. I go, I get paid to watch football on Saturdays for a living, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So, because I'm working.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So let's see. Eastern Kentucky once again cannot beat Gardner-Webb. A rematch of the playoffs last year. Gardner-Webb gets them 35-32. Gardner-Webb had a great fourth quarter to take that dub. I'm kind of surprised Eastern Kentucky's under 500. Now, granted, some of their losses are FBS, so you can't really get onto them, but you lost to Gardner-Webb again, and that's very disappointing because the Big South sucks. I shouldn't say that because they won, but let's see. Tarleton State defeated Morehead State. That wasn't a surprise, 42-0. Utah Tech and North Alabama played one hell of a game too. North Alabama edged out the Trailblazers 31-30. Austin P in Southern Utah. Coach Fitz, man, I thought you were gonna get this one, but Austin P takes it in double overtime, 48-45. And then last but least, Abilene Christian defeats my SFA Lumberjacks at homecoming, which was absolutely frustrating to watch as a fan. Since you watch these games, which one stood out to you as just an awesome game or an awesome display?
Shoot, all of them. And that's not just from the conference side or rep speaking. It was actually really, really good games.
Yeah.
The SFA Austin P instant classic, and then North Alabama Utah Tech again, back and forth slugfest, instant classic on that one. It was nice seeing Tarleton, bounce back, handle some business, and that's a good squad there. And then all the games that I've ever watched between ACU and SFA, it's just back and forth. They're just it's a good little rivalry going. And SFA got them twice last year. It's just ACU's run of it this year.
Yeah, it was.
But great ones. And I will say, hey, how cool was it to see Xavier Gibson back at homecoming? For the Lumberjacks.
Yeah, and he was down not far from where I was too, which is cool. He came the night before to like the homecoming bonfire and was hanging out and doing photos with people. Like, it was pretty cool. He, being the rising star of the Jets and with all the stuff, he's still very, very humble and down to earth, and it's really cool to see. And it's nice for him to come back. It's nice to have him back. Hopefully, he does keep coming back. No, that game, man, this guy, so on the FCS Fans Nation podcast Sunday, somebody asked a question and said, is Kobe Carthel on a hot seat now because he's under 500 for his career? And they said no, and I have to agree with them, but I was starting to think the pitchforks might be starting to come out in Nacogdoches a little bit, but I don't think it's at Kobe Carthel. I think it's at Storm, the offensive coordinator. I think they're looking at him and saying, what is this offense that we're running that's very vanilla, very bland? Some very questionable play calls, though, which I do think came from Carthel. Some things I didn't understand, like why is Chris Campos not out there kicking field goals whenever he has the best leg in the WAC? There's just it's frustrating because SFA is now, let's be honest, the best they can finish is 6-5, but the way they're playing, they're not going to finish above 500 this year. And then I think there's going to be some changes made in NAC. I don't think Carthel, though, again, he's on the hot seat because who would you bring in to replace him? He's a very talented coach. He's won at the D2 level. SFA, as much as people hate hearing this, is not a football school. It's a basketball school with a football program that they're trying to grow and they're trying to develop. But if you look at SFA over the past 20 years, we've gone to the playoffs 5 times, right? So I think, fans are expecting more, but it's kind of honestly par for the course with our team. I know Ryan Ivey's going to watch this and hate that, but it's honestly the truth right now with SFA. And hats off to Abilene Christian for playing a complete game. Maverick McElroy looked really good. Their whole team looked good. Keith Patterson knows how to win. He will find a way to make Abilene Christian a playoff team the next couple of years. And that's going to be hard because I think this conference is going to stay so tight when it comes to standings that it's going to become like the Southern Conference where our teams just start cannibalizing each other and ruining playoff hopes. We'll have teams that are 7-4 that'll get left out of the playoffs because they lost to other 7-4 teams in the conference. The other one that really stood out.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
say, it's nice having high expectations. That's a good thing. But shoot, winning college football games at the Division I level is tough. Yeah. And the thing about Colby is he's a great coach. He's a great motivator, great leader of young men. Honestly, I've got all the respect in the world for Colby and what he does down there. So
yeah,
winning football games in colleges is a lot tougher than people realize.
Oh.
The margin of error, wins and losses is minuscule at this level. And you just gotta have faith and keep running the course with them because I know what kind of person Colby is.
Yeah, I'm a big Coach Carthel fan. I don't think he needs to go anywhere. I think that he'll do fine. There's just some of these games are just things that just happen too. Again, it's so hard to win, and it's hard to win in a conference that has this much parity in the conference.
Yeah.
Everybody talks, we know how good the Big Sky is, how good the Missouri Valley is, but when you look at overall parity, this is some of the tightest competition we've seen. 7 out of the 9 teams could potentially win this conference right now, right? And that's a good thing to have, but it also makes it really hard to pick a front runner.
I'm glad you're picking up on this. It's one of those things. One of the things the Massey's Index rated the UAC as the third strongest conference in the country, and I think they're dead on. It's a great dogfight every week. One of the stats we kind of dug up, this week in one of our little staff calls was we've played 12 conference games so far, and 8 of them have been decided by 7 points or less. And I think 5 of them have been 3 points or less. So, I mean, it's crazy. You know, we're third in the country in strength of schedule. You know, 5 of our schools are in the top 20 of strength of schedules. You know, and then you just look at the scores, like I mentioned, like every game is down to the final minute, going to overtime, just thrillers back and forth. And it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, there's so much parity in our league.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of a conference game that was just an absolute blowout, and there's really hasn't been an actual like one where it's been like the equivalent of playing in the Southland and being like Incarnate Word against, you know, I don't know, Houston Christian, although Houston Christian's better this year, but you know what I mean? You're not seeing like a 17-0 blowout of teams in our conference. You're seeing close, tight games. And that's a good thing. That shows how competitive we are as a conference. I'm looking at some of these comments. Here's one that cracks me up. It says the Southland has a lot of parity. See McNeese versus Incarnate Word this past weekend. You know, Incarnate Word just isn't as good as people are ranking them. I think that's what it is. It's not the same team as last year, not the same coach. You know, Calzada's not a bad quarterback, but again, it's not the same team. So I think some folks are overvaluing them, and they're probably going to win the Southland because there's nobody else to compete against them, but they're going to get boat raced in the playoffs just right off the bat. They're not going to do what they did last year.
You know, and one of our schools actually played McNeese this year. So if you want to go, you know, back to week 1, you know, Tarleton take McNeese 3 or 4 score differential there. So you know, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think the only UAC loss to the Southland was Abilene Christian against Incarnate Word. I think everything else has been a W. So. And
that was a 7-point game, back and forth, late in the fourth kind of thing. Yeah, I was actually at that game, so was there firsthand for that one. I think we're 4-1 against the Southland in that deal. So
yeah. So Will says UCA versus ACU, pointing out a game that was a blowout. Yeah, okay, there was one. Okay, there's an exception to the rule, and ACU didn't show up for that game. Here's a good question because we get into this. Jason Plotkin, who is a Sam Houston alum and a pain in my ass, so I love him to death, goes, Kyle, can you explain the UAC Football League scheduling after this year? Because I think
after this year, yeah.
So go ahead. No, I'm interested in this too. So I know there's going to be different ways of doing this. I know we're adding in West Georgia into the conference, and then we got UTRGV coming 2025 now. So like
2025,
yeah. So I'm interested to see how we're going to handle the scheduling in that conference now that's getting to this size.
Yeah, certainly. It's all very strategic in that deal. You know, sort of the guiding principle that we've been going off of is how do we get multiple teams into the FCS playoff? I think that's what we all want. I think we all know we're a multi-bid league. And then it's, you know, how do we go from 1 to 2? How do we go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4? You know, how do we keep doing that? And there's a lot of strength in our numbers with this one. You know, we're putting the finishing touches on the 24 schedule next year and how that plays out. Very, very strategic. We made a great decision with our presidents and athletic directors from this year in 23. We're playing 6 conference games. And then in 24, we're playing 8 conference games. And the reason why we did that is we looked around. We looked at the Missouri Valley. We looked at the CAA and the Big Sky and all of those teams that have more than 8 teams in there. They're playing 8 league games. You mentioned you're fearful of us cannibalizing each other, beating each other up. That's a positive. I mean, we're all good teams. You're all getting really, really good games. The way the playoff selection committee looks at stuff is if you're playing cupcakes or you're playing just a few conference games, you kind of knock down a peg if you don't schedule well. That's what we kind of aim to do in 24. We're giving everybody 8 really, really dang good games. And you mentioned West Georgia. West Georgia was a strategic move. I mean, they've been a really, really strong program over the last 5 or so years. Historically, they're making deep runs in the D2 playoffs. They're contending for their conference title like every year. Shoot, it's everything we do is pretty strategic and aimed at how do we position ourselves to get multiple teams in, and not only just get them in, but how do we get them going past the first weekend and second weekend and getting deep in runs.
Yeah. And you could always do the CAA method of getting 5 teams in the playoffs and have 16 teams in your conference and just have the top, 5 not play anybody. We could just expand out completely, bring in all these schools and just run that route.
But the nice thing is, when we're working on scheduling and stuff, it's like, okay, well, there's not an off week, so we know we've got good games. And so, pick and choose. It's going to be a good game.
Yeah, that's what I want to see too as a fan of a conference, right? I want to be able to watch good football every week. That's why I kind of get jealous of some of the conferences, like the Big Sky, like the Missouri Valley. Even there's good solid games every week, and I think with the way we're scheduling the teams we're bringing in, it's going to be one of those where the whole entire slate of games is just chock full of great games. Alex has this question. It's a good one too. It says, when we're talking strength schedule, who do you guys want the UAC to schedule a partnership with? Like if it's like similar to the MVFC Big Sky Challenge.
Yeah, certainly. And that's a really good question. We've kicked around some of those thoughts, and the beauty of the UAC though is our geography. We're going from Kentucky all the way over to Utah and Tennessee, and we get the breadth of playing the best in the country, right? You look at Utah Tech. Utah Tech played a handful of Big Sky teams this year. Even I think Central Arkansas played North Dakota State, and then a lot of those schools are playing, like Gardner Webb, you mentioned SEMO, a lot of those OVC, CAA teams. So we can kind of cover the best conferences across the country and put us up against everybody instead of just either one conference here, one conference there. It's one thing that I think it's really unique to our schools. They can play their regional games. They can play some crossover games. But to really pigeonhole it to a specific conference, that's something we can look at. Scheduling's done so far in advance, and the way we've shuffled, over the last few years. Somebody said it today. I was talking to, we basically took the best of the best from 3 conferences over the last 5 years and made them one league. And non-conference scheduling, as you've seen, goes years and years out. So, and then moving to an 8-game slate, that inventory is a little bit compressed with the available non-conference things. So, I like just getting our really good, strong matchups, and we kind of have this, we'll take anybody on mentality, and our coaches and our ADs are in that same vein.
Yeah, like I don't know if I'd want to do a conference on conference sort of thing like Missouri Valley and Big Sky do, because like Big Jack says here, UAC Southland would be a great schedule partnership. I'm like, it'd be a great schedule partnership for UAC wins. I personally would like to see SFA, like my school, if I want them to play South Dakota State in a home, right? Jacks versus Jacks, right? I want them to play Eastern Washington. I want them to play some of the schools that, we're not getting to play. We're playing Alcorn, which is great. I'm actually a fan of Alcorn, right? We're playing some good, like, Southern rivalry. I want us to expand out and get some good home and homes. But also, too, there's the money cost. There's the travel piece. So it is a bit of a pipe dream to see. But, you never know what you're gonna get. I don't know if you can answer this question or not, but it says Ted Gumbert became a fan favorite in recent years with his social media interaction. He was pretty good on Twitter. He's listed as a league advisor. What's his role within the UAC? Or what's it look like? So
Ted's involved with us in the UAC. Some of this was his brainchild dating back years and years and years. He's a guy like that who's been a commissioner for 30 years. Is always good to pick his brain. He's seen some things. He's he's had some battle scars, so to speak. And he's just a good guy to bounce ideas off of and see how things roll. But I will say, you know, the leadership with the WAC commissioner Brian Thornton and the ASUN commissioner Jeff Bacon, those are two outstanding guys. You know, those are risers in the industry. They get it. They understand how important football is, and their involvement is very high as well. You know, they're just as involved, knowing what's going on in the day to day with our football enterprise. And you know, it's just really, really nice to have a lot of really, really smart people in the room.
And you got Oliver Luck up there too, and that guy is a genius. Like he's an absolute genius. Like when he was announced as being part of this conference, I was like, this is what's going to make the conference grow, because he's just great. He's
Oliver's fantastic. You know, he's done everything in this game that you can possibly think of. So, you know, who else would you rather call on?
Exactly. This is actually, that would tie this. So Alex said SCS, she's locked into 8 conference games, 1 Big Sky, and then 2-3 of a bye guy or a home and home or FBS game. Flexibility definitely can be a benefit. Alex, pretty smart guy, and he's 100% correct with that. You know, having 8 games next year is, like I said, it does limit who you're going to get for your out of conference, but maybe it also makes the teams look strategically at who they're going to play. Right. Maybe less sub D1 games, even those apparently now count towards playoffs, according to some of the articles we've seen this year. But, you know, maybe it causes the schools to focus on quality, and hopefully that too, because I know some of these sub D1 games have been because of other schools backing out of games. Right. You can't help that. That happens, but hopefully they lock in for contracts, like a good home and home series with somebody. You know.
Yeah, and I'll say that 8-game format kind of gets you back more into a traditional composite view of your schedule. When you're at 6, you're chasing a lot of weird weekends where other teams and you're limited by their conference schedule. So you might not be able to get as good of a game as you'd hope for. But moving to the 8 gets you more into a little bit more of a traditional format where, you know, hey, our first 4 or 5 weeks, those are kind of protected. Or last week, you know, there might be an opportunity in FBS type bye situation depending on schedules, but you're not chasing bad games in that point.
Yeah. So sorry, I'm just putting this one up for. He's a South Dakota State guy, and Tarleton did back out of a home and home, but so. I know you're going to Utah this weekend because you're going to go watch both Utah Tech and Southern Utah. Have you hit all the stadiums yet in the conference and paid them a visit, or there's still some?
I haven't. There's a couple I still need to knock off, but I'm close to getting them all. This week winds up to be a good trip because you know, Southern Utah and Eastern Kentucky are an afternoon game, and then. Oh, excuse me, Southern Utah and Abilene Christian. That's an afternoon game, and Utah Tech and Eastern Kentucky. That's a night game, and the campus is 45 minutes apart. So I made that trip last year. It was interesting because Utah Valley's in the WAC as well, and I oversee baseball for the WAC, and so I hit a fall baseball scrimmage. Drove down for the games and drove back up. Well, I drove through a raging snowstorm after the Utah Tech game. I was the only car on the road, just seeing a sheet of white in this little Dodge Charger. Not know. I get back and I fly out, and you know the next thing I know, you know, Southern Utah's putting a post up about having snow plows on their field, clearing 4 feet of snow off their field. So I was a little smarter on how I planned this trip a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm just staying on the southern part of Utah.
Let's see. So a couple questions. Brandon Haddock asked, where can we get some UAC swag? We thought about doing a UAC merch store, like to help even just advertise and drive stuff.
Yeah. That's something that's in the plans of a startup, right?
Yeah.
We've got some giveaways that we've given to the schools. So I'd say the the best way to get some swag is attend games.
Yep. And
attend
Brandon,
games, and some of those schools throw out some gear, and just get on campus. You'll see some UAC stuff.
Yep. And Brandon, I know is a diehard North Alabama Lion, so I know he's probably at every single one of those games in Florence. Here's a couple questions that are kind of back to back, so I'll hit them both. Jason asked, Kyle, since day one, FBS has been mentioned as a destination for the UAC. Has that conversation quieted down? And then the follow-up that Will Seiler asks says, I might be opening a can of worms here, but did the new FBS requirements change the UAC's long-term goal towards becoming a mainstay strong LCS conference instead of a potential move up? Both good questions, because it's one of the things everybody talked about whenever the news articles came out saying that the UAC's goal was to jump as a conference.
Right. Understand. We saw those, but from day one, our main goal was be the best FCS conference that we could be the best we can be where we're at. We kind of always live by the motto "bloom where you're planted," sort of thing. So that's been our focus. Of course, everybody talks about it nationally. They see Houston moves up, and Jacksonville State and Kennesaw, all those schools, and what is it? And then everybody's paying attention to the transformation committee reports, and those things are what they are, And I don't know that, anybody who's got ideas of going up to FBS are deterred by a lot of that stuff. But from our conference perspective, from the feelings of our athletic directors and coaches, it's always been, let's be the best conference we can be where we're at, whatever division that's at. And how can we get, multiple teams in to the playoffs, and how do we really just kind of make a name for ourselves in this deal?
Yeah, I personally like that perspective. Honestly, when Sam first said they were moving up, you kind of had, as a SFA fan, you kind of had that moment of, well, like, what are we going to do? But then after the coverage they got after their game last week, I mean, some of it wasn't entirely accurate, but when they were showing the completely empty side of the visitor side of the stadium, even though that was just shot a couple hours after the game kicked off, right? It's still bad press. And when you're sitting there 0-7, that's not the press I want for my school personally. So, I mean, I've applauded Sam for doing the move because they did what they thought was right for their school. I applauded Jacksonville State for doing the move because they did what thought was right for their school. Kennesaw State, I don't even know what planet they're on, but they're doing it. Good for them. Like, I personally do like what the UAC is becoming. I'd rather us be part of what could become a powerhouse at our division. That's just my personal personal stance on it. Let's see. We got
and I'll say our schools, they're in growing areas, good campuses, support. You look at a lot of the stadiums, they're good crowds. I think Tarleton had 23,000 last weekend.
Yep.
And it's just quality. Everything our schools do is really quality.
Let's see. I got a couple of comments. First of all, the Jacksonville State fan says you guys can have Sam back. That's okay. You can't have that. See, Jim Lettuce, he says, big Southern Utah fan here. Love Coach Fitz. A lot of buzz about how good we will be in a year or two. Thoughts on this? I've said this, and I've said that Southern Utah is a year away from being a playoff team. They have, their youth. They're getting older. They're just not able to right now play a complete 4 quarters of football. They get past that hump, they're going to be super dangerous with the team they have. I could see them going 8-3 next year and being in the playoffs. I know you're going to go watch them in person this weekend. I didn't watch them on TV. Are you feeling the same about them? Because I think Coach Fitz is turning that program around.
We're probably 12 points away from telling and talking about Southern Utah being a top 10 team. A 3-point loss to a Power 5. They had a ranked 2-point against UC Davis. They had a 2-point loss against Central Arkansas. They go to double overtime against a ranked Austin P. We're like 12 points away from talking about Southern Utah being a top 10 team, and that's no lie. I mean, again, that's the parity of the conference. But Coach Fitzgerald, what he's doing there, I'm a big fan of what he does. The old adage is teams take on the personality of their head coach. And you can see that the way that they play. I joke a lot of times with some people. There's actually one of the coaches for the local high school who's got kids my kid's age. He's a Southern Utah alum, and so we talk Southern Utah a lot. And we always kind of joke it's the dumbest thing you can do is turn off a Southern Utah game in the fourth quarter. It's going to be entertaining until the clock hits zero. So a lot of respect for what Coach Fitz is doing out there. So excited to go see him in person.
Yeah, he invited me to go hang out with him when they come to Nacogdoches, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to go watch you beat SFA. Like, I like you guys. I like you a lot. If you weren't in the conference, I'd be rooting for you, like completely. But I don't know if I can just stand watching you just take us to the woodshed, because I have a feeling that's going to happen. I just think they're that great of a team. And to your point, or to Will's point, Southern Utah is the best 2-win team in the country. Absolutely. They absolutely are. And then Randall says they're real close to the playoffs. Yeah, like you said, 12 points. They're going to be dangerous next year. They're going to be absolutely dangerous next year.
They're dangerous right now.
Yeah, they're dangerous right now. But I mean, like next year, they're going to be a playoff team. They could be in conversations for a seed, right? And I know Jamie Williams, who's on the probably FCS Fans Nation, he knows Coach Fitzgerald from their time from James Madison, and he's a big SUU guy also, and he said the same thing. It's really funny. We were talking about the parity to conference earlier, and I was going to mention this. When Jamie did his top 127, which is really cool if you haven't seen it, he ranks every team in the FCS.
Yeah.
Which, man, I wish some other people took that much time with their polls like he does. 7 of the United teams were in the top 60. Right in the preseason. I have a feeling if you were to do a postseason ranking of the 127, we might see 8 in the top, in the top 60. Just to be honest with you, because like I said, it's just that good of a conference this year in terms of the parity. You want to talk the games next week?
Well, let's talk everybody. Let's talk games. Let's talk everybody. We're here to give everybody their shine. I can go on and on about every single one of these schools. I'll tell you what. I really, really enjoy, getting to work with all these coaches and ADs and presidents, and the mission that they've got is really fun, and the way they go about things. It's fun watching them do their work.
And honestly, every team in this conference has the right coach that they need for and it all fits. Brendan Lutke says Dustin would rank all 127, but he's too cool. Actually, Brendan, I can't count that high, so I would lose track. Let's see, the UAC regrabbed the Georgia market by adding Western Georgia. Any interest in adding West Florida and or Valdosta in a period of uncertainty in the Gulf South? I don't know. I've heard this, and I don't know if you can comment on this, and if you can't, that's okay. I've heard the big thing with Valdosta is their facilities and their lack of facilities. I've heard that's been one of the struggle points with getting them to move up. West Florida is interesting though, because that's an interesting market being in Pensacola, and they have a great rivalry with West Georgia. So once it was announced that West Georgia is moving up to the ASUN and then to the UA, I wondered how far behind West Florida would be in terms of coming up, because they seem to kind of go hand in hand together.
Right. Yeah, certainly know their history, know about those programs. We're focused. We got West Georgia in, and we got UTRGV coming in 25. All of a sudden we're climbing up to 11, and we're rocking and rolling. So you never know what happens in this climate of college football. Look at the FBS. You got 18 teams in the Big Ten. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm not saying anything out there that nobody's thinking of, but everybody's constantly thinking about realignment and who's out there and what's going on, and all of those things. But we're really, really happy with the schools that we've got. Honestly, you don't ever want to add just to add, but I think we've got the right group right now, real strong group. We're tickled with them.
Yeah, I'm excited about UTRGV, and I love their helmets so far. Their uniforms, like those, absolutely look sick. And that's such a great, fertile recruiting ground that they now own. Right, that's their area. They can go down there and get some great talent. And I think they're going to come out swinging once they go live, and they're ready to go, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
They're rallying the valley, that's for sure. Travis Bush and Chase, they're doing the right things. It's impressive what they're doing. They're going to instantly be very, very good.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. They're going to instantly be a team to look out for. Yeah, I mean they are. Let's see. Let's go through. Let's look at the games real quick before I forget to do it for next week. So there's 4. Thankfully, I don't have to watch SFA lose to Bye, but the way they've been going past couple weeks, I think Bye might take them. Let's see. The first game of your afternoon, you got Abilene Christian at Southern Utah, and what's going to be? I think this is going to be probably the closest game of the week. Abilene Christians. I mean, they are a lot better than their record shows, and they showed that this past week against SFA. Southern Utah, we've already said they're 12 points away from being a top 10 team. I think this is one of those that's going to go back and forth. It's going to be a slugfest. If I'm looking at it, I don't necessarily want to. I'm not going to put a score in there, but I think it's going to be one of those where it's Southern Utah by like 3 in overtime. Like it's going to be one of those sort of games.
Yeah, you're not going to get me to make any predictions.
I didn't think I was going to.
Winners.
You can just blink. You can just blink.
I'll be like what Herb Street when he's calling the game from game day. He recuses himself from picking. But shoot, man, I'll just say it's 2 really good coached football teams. Yeah. There's not going to be a lot of mistakes on the field. It's like you said, it's going to be back and forth.
Yes,
2 really, really good coaches. I've got history and a lot of respect with KP at ACU. We talked about Coach Fitz. I mean, it's just going to be a darn good football game in perfect 50-degree football weather. It's we got that. Yeah, Dustin's trying to get me in trouble.
I am not trying to do anything in trouble.
I won't take the cheese.
You don't have to call the game. You can just give me like the insight you're giving now. It's fine. I'll call the game and then I'll be right.
But yeah, that one's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be fun to watch. So excited to be there.
Yeah, I put this up because this is fun. You got North Alabama going to Clarksville to fight to play the Fighting Scotty Waldens of Austin P. I love Scotty Walden. Like I'm a Scotty Walden fan. He's up there too as one of my favorite coaches. Again, this one is that a lot of folks honestly kind of crap on UNA a little bit because they have struggled since they've come up. But again, they're improving every year, and they've actually done well this year, especially after losing Shanderick Powell to UCA. Right, that's a huge loss to lose a guy who is now probably the best running back in the FCS. Brandon thinks the upset of the week is UNA over the P. I don't think it's an upset. This one's going to be your upset special. I think Austin Peay's going to win by a touchdown. You don't have to call this one, but do you have any thoughts on either one of those teams just in general?
Exciting. They're both really, really exciting. You mentioned Scotty. DeLillo, he's as good as they come. He's dynamic. Doss playing on the outside of corner. He locks people up. A lot of these things. They're hot right now. 5 wins. They're real hot, but you never count out Dearman at all. I mean, those guys are tough. They're rolling. You look at it. They took a ranked UT Chattanooga team to the woodshed. That's a 3-score game. UT Chattanooga, they got manhandled by North Alabama. Yeah. So and then had a 2 or 3 score lead at halftime against UT Martin. Yeah, it's again going back to the parity of the league. Like you can't take a week off in this league, North Alabama's going to have a lot of fireworks. it's both really, really exciting teams, exciting brand of football. I think that's one that's going to be just back and forth, exciting plays, shots, explosives, the whole works.
Yeah.
It's gonna be one of those that you might fill a 10-minute film on highlight packages. It's just exciting. And again, I talked about Coach Fitz and teams taking on the personalities of their head coach. You're not going to give them bigger personalities than Scotty and Dearman at all. Those guys, both those teams play with a tremendous amount of energy all the way through. So that's mine.
Yep. I agree 100%. And Zach McKinnell of the Blue Bloods, which I don't know if you follow the Blue Bloods on.
Yeah, of course.
Great
I
guy.
need to follow me back though.
Oh, hey, you know what? Zach, you could do that. Zach, again, has got the sweetest dulcet tones in FCS, but he says Dearman's building something special. I love seeing people from the 251 being successful. Absolutely. And I will say a certain coach told me that I was being too hard on Dearman earlier this year. And I was absolutely being too hard on Dearman. And so this is me eating crow. So if he ever watches this, sorry, coach, I was too hard on you. I should not have been. No, the only reason I took Austin Peay is because it's hard to win in the fort. It is. They played really well there. If this game was in Florence, I might go the other way. Let's see, Tarleton and UCA. This is going to be another interesting one because UCA, I still think they're personally the pick to win the conference this year. But they showed some weakness against SFA. SFA was able to kind of control the three-headed monster that they have between Powell, Hale, and then Will McElvain and QB. Mm-hmm. I think, and again, Tarleton just is coming in. They're playing great football. The game is in Conway. The game's on the Stripes. I'm going to pick against UCA personally. I'm going to pick Tarleton. Something I really haven't done this year, but I'm gonna give it a go. UCA is coming off a bye week. I have a feeling we're gonna see the Jekyll and Hyde Bears or one of them cats or whatever they want to be known as at this point.
That was great. That was great.
UCA's social media was amazing that week, and my favorite thing about it is when they did the coaches show for SU the following week. How many times they dropped cats and had the cat counter. Yeah. And they're like, that was so.
It's good fun. Lot of respect across conference lines.
Yeah. Let's see.
That game will be interesting. I mean, I think Tarleton's leading the country in defensive scores. They're stingy, on defense, but they've got some explosives on the outside with Cooper and Gabalos, and they can put up points with anybody. And UCA, I mean, you mentioned them, with Powell and Nathan Brown's were just he's as good as the coaches. I feel like a broken record talking about how good these coaches are.
Yeah.
And just the programs that they're building and the things that they're doing on campus and the type of people that they are. I feel like it's on repeat with them, but that's the mark of really successful programs. And we're really fortunate to have a league full of them,
Yeah. Will wants to point out that UCA rushed for 200 against SFA. UCA was dangerously close to losing that game. Will, don't forget that. Like, a couple missed field goals, that game goes a complete different way. So just cool yourself. Let's see. Alex says that UCA smokes him and ends his ranked Tarleton talk. Alex, put this one in your computer. I know you're doing the bad beats or whatever your betting show is with the Jack Rabbit Illustrated Voice. Run this one on your computer and see what it says, because I'd be interested to see what the results are on that one. Zach McKinnell says, we definitely follow Kyle. Have to keep up to date for all the conference updates. UAC had one of the best location for media days this year, so I'm hoping you'll keep it there. And hopefully, Zach, when you fly back for media day next year, you don't have your flight delayed because of a flashlight issue. Like Zach and I had our flight back from Brookings to Dallas, or Sioux Falls to Dallas delayed for forever. And Will, I didn't say we stopped.
We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you back at me today. I agree. I think we put on the best football preview show in the country. I'd take ours even over a lot of FBS productions.
Yeah, no, I watched it, and then I saw all Zach's coverage from it. It was great. I wish I could have gone. I'm going to try to block off and go next year, or at least tie a work trip, because I do have a thing in Dallas to where I can go and then go check it out.
We'd love to have you.
Thanks, man. I would totally love to go. And then let's do the last game of the week real quick. Eastern Kentucky. This is the other one we get to go watch. Eastern Kentucky and Utah Tech. And both these teams I like. Eastern Kentucky, Parker McKinney still, I don't care what anybody says, he still has an NFL arm. They are, they've had some, like I said, their record isn't necessarily an indication of how they are this year, because they do have 2 FBS losses. Their game against Western Carolina was one of the most insane games I ever sat down and watched. And again, Utah Tech, beats North Arizona, who beats Montana, right? Utah Tech's played that schedule for the past few years, which now has sharpened them to be a tougher, better team. And they are hanging in and looking good too. I know you're not picking. Randall asked, does EKU lose 2 in a row? I don't think so. I think EKU will win this one, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's another one where it's a game by a touchdown or less. Like, it's just going to be a back and forth game on the turf that Jim Poppin, who he's watching, hates, because the Utah Tech turf does look shiny on TV. It's weird. It looks wet every time you watch the game, even though it's not. I think it's just the way the turf is. But I think Eastern Kentucky takes this. I'm sure you're excited to go check this game out too, because this is going to be a great nightcap after the Southern Utah early game.
Yeah, this is what I'm really, really excited about. I mean, I haven't seen EKU live yet, and I'm really, really excited to see what they do. They're explosive. You mentioned that that game with Western Carolina earlier. Western Carolina's number 7, or they're up there.
Yeah.
Tremendous parity in the league. And I mean, shoot, I'll take all of our teams against anybody in the country. They go toe to toe with that, and have a chance to tie it up at the end there. And shoot, Utah Tech. You look at what they've done. I'm glad you mentioned that Northern Arizona game, and that's one. If you're, people love to play the transitive property deal of we beat so and so. Who are the mutual opponents, and watching that game against Northern Arizona. I mean, it was just a straight college football butt kicking that Utah Tech gave on that one, and Northern Arizona turns around and plays really well and beats some really, really good teams. And so, Utah Tech play with anybody in the country again. So that game's really, really excited. I don't know how, you look at the matchups and you see how people, their styles, play off of each other and where you can exploit. This one's so different that I can't call it. I can't. Yeah. I'm just excited how this one's going to play out. Yeah. You can see some where it's, hey, some of these are more ball control defense. Some of these are more explosive and up tempo. This one I can't figure out, but I'm really excited to get out there and watch this one live and see those teams play.
Yeah, well, I mean, talk about figuring out stuff. Utah Tech has figured out how to beat teams whose mascots are the Lumberjacks, because they've done it twice this year, which is. I mean, I can't let that one go. I mean, SFA did lose that. Matt Henson has a good question here. He says, I don't know if this has been answered yet, but Kyle, what's the tiebreaker scenario this year if 2 teams end up not playing each other this season? Are we?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's very logical that can be a scenario. It's a traditional format, so obviously it'll be overall conference winning percentage. And then it'll go to head to head. And then there's some other things that go down the line, record versus next highest finishing. I think there's a series of, 5 metrics that we use to break a tie, and they're all very, very traditional in that regard. So not going to do a coin flip or anything like that. So there it is.
The coin flip that was going to be done in secrecy.
Yeah. No, our take on that one, that was one of the first things that we talked about back in February maybe, when we were putting all this together with our ADs, just going through policy was, hey, we're not going to do a coin flip. We want the players on the field to decide the outcome. We want their Waffle House. Hey, you'll get me in there. I'll
coin flip at the Waffle House.
I'll be the mayor of Waffle House.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want the kids, we want the players to decide this, and that's really the only true way of how it should be. Let the teams battle it out, and again, that's part of the reason why we went to 8 conference games as well. For next year, it gives more data points for that.
Yeah, and no, I mean, we all ripped on the OVC for their coin flip thing last year, especially because they're like, they're not going to show it, and they were like, you need to show the video. And then this part where the disappointment in their voice whenever it said it's heads, whenever the team they didn't want to win it won it. That was it was so good, and just one of those things that you can't do. And one other thing about Waffle House, I don't know if these northern guys completely get it, but Waffle House is just breakfast hibachi. And tell me that's exactly what it is. Let's see. Rock, paper, scissors. Where to go? Rock, paper, scissors at the 50 between team captains, best of 3. It's a good way. It's a good way to sell it. East West Championship.
It's gonna be the Spider-Man meme where we're all pointing at each other.
Yeah. There you go. Have Kyle pick a number 1 through 10, whichever head coach is closest wins the tiebreaker.
Are decimal points allowed?
Yeah. Ron Lowney says cage match.
Fun. Hey, we got 2 guys in the league that like to take their shirts off.
That's very true. That could be interesting at those 2.
This could be fun.
Yeah, and then this one's interesting because they're saying an East-West championship game. Unfortunately, we can't do that with the playoffs. There's just not enough time. But it would be awesome if the conferences that were bigger in terms of the size of teams, like even like us, like the CAA, like the Big Sky, they were able to have a week where they could do a championship game. Just fun. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to watch, but it's just not a feasible, logistical sort of option. But I would definitely enjoy it. Somebody said beer pong as a way to decide. That could be fun.
Who's playing?
Yeah, that could be fun.
That could get real interesting.
Yeah,
real dangerous.
Yeah,
we'll have to put some rules on that one.
There you go. Jason Blocken asked this question: do you prefer? And you don't have to answer this one. You can shake it. Do you prefer working at the university level or the conference level?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. That's a really good question. Each has got its really, really positive deals. I love my time working on campus. I really enjoy what I'm doing now on the conference level. Campus life is great. I mean, you interacting and having an impact on kids' lives. It's really good. I've got a picture in my office at work from one of my players, former players, and back when I was an ops guy, and head coach kind of introduced. He said, "Hey, this is your best friend." Introduced me. If you need anything, dining hall, room and board, whatever it is, go see him. And me and this player, his name is Josh Atkinson. He's coaching in Colorado now, Division II school out in Colorado. We formed a really, really special bond. So having that interaction with kids up at conference level or at the institutional level is awesome. Working at the conference level, it's wonderful. You get to do some really, really cool things, like being on this podcast. We're talking about schedules. I mean, my daily basis is I get to interact with all of our school, university ADs and presidents and head coaches, and you get to do a lot of really, really cool stuff. So, I mean, flip a coin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's. I mean, it makes sense. I will tell you, we're talking about this and the cool stuff you're doing. Last year the WAC ASUN challenge, the WAC Sun as we called it, got crapped on a lot because of just the way things were being done, right? Like the power poll that didn't really solve anything.
Yeah.
And then I think once it kind of rolled up and became the United, folks were a little skeptical still. Like, is this going to be another conglomeration of just crap? And I think the work that you guys had done at the offices with the presidents, with the ADs, right, has proven a lot of people wrong. And I've seen people who were loving last year to hate on the teams in this conference and hating on the WAC Sun are loving it this year. And I think that's a testament to what you guys have done at the conference level and in the office. So as a fan of the conference, and I'm sure for like Will and Brandon and Zach and everybody else who's watching this, we appreciate the work that you guys have done to come in and already cement the United as, one hell of a conference and year one of being a true conference.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We took the stances. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right, and we're going to go. We're not going to toe dip. We're going to jump in 2 feet and do things right. And I got to give all the credit in the world to our university presidents and commissioners, and the leadership on all the campuses. All those schools have fully bought in. Everybody's kind of rowing in the same direction. And everybody wants to be great, which is really, really cool. When you get around a bunch of people that are visionary, that want to do things at the top levels. So, really got to, give all of the credit in the world to our university presidents and commissioners and ADs.
Yeah. So Will Seiler, who last year podcasted with me for Wax on Weekly, he was a player at Central Arkansas, right? And so I know he shares the same sentiment. He put it right here. It's really nice to fall back into the stable conference that does operate like a conference. It does make things a lot more fun and enjoyable. And then Zach from Blue Blood says UAC's done an excellent job this year. The media content's already some of the best in the country at the FCS level. And 100% agree there too. I think the social media, everything you guys are putting out so far has been great. Has been really, really great. So, again, thanks.
Appreciate you saying that. Brian Morgan is on our staff. He was with the ASUN for quite a while. He does a great job with that stuff, and it's a team effort. We're putting things out. Our campuses, and I told a number of our ADs that our campus folks that produce really, really quality stuff, great content. It makes being able to repost things a big impact, and that's a growing deal. And again, a lot of visionary people on our campuses, they see and recognize the importance of that stuff, and they're attacking it. I mean, some of the graphics that some of our schools are putting out are just really, really talented people. It's phenomenal. It's awesome.
Sorry, I just saw a question. I know you're not going to answer this. So I'm going to put it up here anyway. Parting question for Kyle: whose purple is the best within the UAC? I mean, to be true, we've got probably the most purple out of any conference in the FC.
Oh, where's my PMS code chart? Because a couple of them have the same purple.
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of us have the same hand sign too, although one school ripped off the other one. Looking at you, Tarleton.
No, I love it. I love it makes it really. It opens up the wardrobe a little bit when you're going to some of these games. You get purple and purple. Hey, throw on that purple shirt. You're safe.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. You've been out to Nacogdoches already, I assume, right? Because it's just an easy drive for you.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah. Have you hit the brewery, the Fredonia Brewing out there in downtown?
I haven't. Usually I'm in and out, but I need to stay.
So this is their. I'm trying to get sponsored, so this is their beer. Just shout out to
Purple Lights. Let's talk to Wally out there. Get that down.
Oh, so, yeah. Well,
I saw that. I'm trying to get Ryan to get me a bottle of bourbon that they produced.
That's so hard to find because I wanted some too, and I missed out on getting. We had the wine too. The wine though, the first batch of wine wasn't great. I think the second round was better, but man, I've heard good stuff on the bourbon. So, I should have asked. I was there this weekend.
I
should
just
ask
wanted
Ryan.
to be involved in the. I just wanted to be involved in the tastings. And the
exactly.
Let's go.
Exactly.
That's some good stuff.
Yeah, I saw Ryan and I saw Wally both this weekend. Man, I should have asked. I didn't even think about it. I just been like, Ryan, what you got in your closet in the office? I'm sure you got a couple bottles sitting around. So we're getting close to an hour. This is one last parting question. I don't know if you want to do this, but Todd Palmer asked, so you look at the other conferences and see what they do to create success. Are there things that you try to emulate? And also on the flip side, are there things that you see them do that you yourself or as a conference say, hey, we don't want to do this to do what they're doing?
Yeah, I think, you look at those that are successful and say, okay, why did they become successful? And put yourself in position to do some of those things. But also, is the traditional way of doing things the best way? If it is, great, let's do it. Let's roll with it. And that's kind of the beauty of a little startup kind of thing that we've done is, hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't, hey, let's pivot. And there's nothing in tradition that says we have to do things a certain way. We're looking at being innovative, being creative, doing things, how do we generate, revenue? How do we generate NIL opportunities for kids? The whole gamut of what the transformation of college athletics is. We're trying to run that. We're trying to run a lot of that stuff, and I tell people all the time when I talk to them is in trying to explain what the United Athletic Conference is. What are we? We're kind of doing what's probably going to happen a few years down the road at the FBS level. You think of some things. So we're doing some things that are innovative. It's creative. And again, our presidents and ADs and our commissioners, they're all about, hey, what are the things that can push us forward and make us really, really relevant? And really at the end of the day, how can we win games? That's what is ultimately the biggest measure of how successful you are as a conference is, hey, can we win games? Can we make postseason runs and can we do some things? And we've got in our conference, I'm just looking at all the logos, we've got powerful brands in this league. People know our schools. And we can certainly leverage a lot of those in unique and creative ways.
Awesome. Well, Coach, we're at an hour. So before I sign off, real quick, let people know where they can find you on socials, or if you want to drop any sort of advertising for the UAC that we haven't done, I'll give you the floor and take it away.
Yeah. I'm at TK Grooms on both Instagram and Twitter. I'm not on TikTok or Facebook or anything like that, but really at UAC football is where you can find the league. Again, we're putting out creative stuff, doing some unique things. Really just show up to the games, be college football fans, watch the games that you're not fans of, but really, really just embrace being a college football fan, because it's great, and our student athletes, they deserve it. They really do. And whatever support that you can give, butts and seats is a big deal. And things of that nature. So we're excited. Keep talking about us on social and write good things and be our friend.
I like it, and that's exactly the way to do it. So real quick before we go, a couple things. So next week, normally I do this on Tuesday, but next week it'll be on Monday. So if you follow the FCS Fans Nation YouTube page, you're going to get a double dose of live content, because I am going to go in front of the Jackrabbit Illustrated B Team guys because of work next week. Although their show will be a lot more amusing than mine, probably, because it always is. Two, before we go, as always, shout out to FCS Fans Nations, all the shows. Zach from Blue Bloods, I got to shout him out, man. He's one of the best in the business.
Absolutely.
Love the fact that he tries to come on here and derail the show, just like I try to go on his and derail his, although he has 97 million comments going through his at once. And so anytime I get a successful derailment, it makes me feel pretty happy. But no, guys,
we'll say, hey, anybody who's I'll finish that up. Hey, anybody who's ranking in polls, rank the UAC guys up the top.
There you go, Zach. I'm leaving that on you. We should just have all UAC in your Blue Bloods top 25 next week. I mean, Craig's not going to catch it. It'll be fine. He's not going to care. All right, well, guys, listen, Kyle. Once again, thanks for coming on. Anytime you want to come on and hang out, you're more than welcome to. You always have an open spot. And I guess we will talk to you guys next week.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everybody.